All right. Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today at our March Parent Seminar. Today, we will be talking about special education and an overview of the department. And with me today, we have Mr. Eric Baker, Director of Special Education. And thank you also to Ine Gonzalez Torres, our special education translator transcriber, who will be doing our session in Spanish later this afternoon. Just as a reminder, although you're all doing a great job, you want to make sure that you're muting your microphone, typing any questions in the chat, and at the end of the presentation, we will have an opportunity for you to ask any questions. I will be skipping these slides just because we already went over that. And as a reminder, the RSD Parent Seminars came to be due to the responses by parents to the Parent Training Needs Survey that we give out every year. The parent seminars will discuss different topics that will help you connect with the district and provide resources to you as a parent or family member of a student in the Reading School District. So again, thank you so much for joining us. We do have 2 more sessions this year before the end of the school year. One is in April, and we will be talking about all the testing that's going to happen during this month, the PSSA, the Keystones, and we will also be talking about the WEDA, which we did at the beginning of the school year, the calendar year, and we will be talking about the results, how to read them, what does it mean, how that helps you as a parent, and how it helps us as a district. And then our final session for this year will be in May, where we will discuss the opportunities there are for children and how you can make sure that your child does not have any summer learning loss. So we will be giving out those dates soon. Make sure that you are keeping an eye out for that. And as a reminder, all of the sessions from this year are up on our YouTube page. So you can go on our YouTube, look at the playlist, and there you will see all the videos from all the previous parent seminars. Right now, we do want to let you know that our parent and family engagement policy has been revised. It is updated to a new format, and we are looking for feedback. So if you scan the QR code on your screen, you will be led to our website, and there you can read the updated policy, and also there is a Google form that you can fill out with your comments. We are looking for your feedback before the 8th of April, when we will be publishing the updated policy for next school year. And now I am going to pass it off to Mr. Baker so that he can give us an overview of his department.
Thank you, Arlene. Good morning, everybody. I am Eric Baker. I'm the Director of Special Education. This is my 16th year in the Reading School District. I taught for 10 years. I was a special ed program coordinator for 5 years, and this is my first year as the Director of Special Education. We have about 4,100 students that have IEPs within the district out of the total of 16,000 of the total student population. So that is 25% of our students that receive special education services. And it is very important for my department and my team we are committed to helping our students that have special needs, and we tailor our we tailor our programs to meet those needs. And we have a bunch of different needs that our students have, and trying to find the best possible solutions to help our kids to be successful is what we are all about. This is a picture of our graphic of our team organizational chart. We have obviously me, this Director of Special Education, and recently this year we opened up a position for an Assistant Director of Special Education, and that is currently Chris Reichert. He came on board in January, and we do have 7 program coordinators. Each of those program coordinators oversee buildings, and we tried to make the number of special education students equal to each supervisor. So that's how we determined which schools each of those program coordinators oversee. Each program coordinator also has their own projects that they are responsible for, whether it's ESY, whether it's related services, whether it's working with our ELL population as well, looking at grants and how we can bring in money to support our students. We also have a data coordinator, Brittany Pauly, who oversees looking at making sure that we maintain compliance with our IEP dates and our RRs. She works closely with our school site clerks to determine when evaluations are coming due. And she works with the state, alongside the state, to determine that we stay in compliance with federal mandates. These are our translators. We have 4 translators, and they are working tirelessly around the workday and attending IEP meetings to ensure that our parents understand what our school teams are explaining to them when it comes to their own child's IEP. We have Ernette Gonzalez Torres, we have Blanca Inoff and Gladys Mendez and Jennifer Caligari. So if you need translation, we will provide those translators to you so that you are you can easily understand what is being communicated. They are our rock stars of our department for sure. Okay. So as I said, we have about 4,100 students, 4,100 students that have special education services. As I said before, that's 25% of our total population of the Reading School District that receive supports. And our school district identifies and serves these students with diverse learning needs by implementing research-based instructional practices. And these research-based practices can include reading interventions and math interventions. We also provide comprehensive support services, and these include autistic support, emotional support, multiple disability support. These are our low incidence classrooms, and the students that are in those classrooms receive the supports that they need in a smaller class size. And with our special education teachers, we have a total of about 130 special education teachers here in the Reading School District. And they are all, supporting our students on a daily basis and trying to have those students be included in the general education environment as much as possible. And then our team and department is working very hard to build strong partnerships with our families and communities. And at the end of this presentation, there are 2 family training nights that I will be able to present to you, and that is happening in April. So just trying to build those relationships, as a department, we know our 130 special education teachers are very good at communicating with families and forming those relationships. We just want to work on getting more information out to parents and families. Okay, so in order for me to talk about special education, I first need to talk to you about the MTSS process. It's a multi-tiered system of supports. Schools are federally mandated to implement an MTSS framework that uses data-driven problem solving to provide targeted support to all students based on their individual needs. And I'm going to go into depth on this and just show you that there are supports in place before a student would become a student with an IEP or come into special education. If you take a look at the MTSS graphic here, you can see that it's in the shape of a pyramid. And, we have the comprehensive support system operates on these 3 tiers and increases with intensity as you go higher up into those tiers. The bottom is larger because every student receives tier 1 support. So that's what the student is receiving in their general education classroom. So it's a teacher teaching math and teaching to the curriculum. Every student receives that. And then the top of the pyramid is the smallest because that is where less students require that support. And I will go into a little bit more in depth with each tier here. So tier 1 here is, like, as I stated before, all students receive this tier support. We do have a universal screening assessment within the district, and that is called the Linkit Benchmark Assessment. And that is given to students 3 times a year, one in the beginning, one in the middle, and one at the end. And that determines where students are at with their same age peers and where they are at in relation to the grade standards that they are in. So it gives us the data to show. I'll use the example. Let's say a 4th grader is taking the Linkit benchmark, and they understand math, and it will tell us whether they are where they need to be in terms of their same age peers, or if they need more supports. If they need more supports, then what happens in tier 1 is the general education teacher provides evidence-based classroom practices. That could be anything from providing graphic organizers. It could be sentence starters, but they also provide differentiated instruction as well. If students need more supports than tier 1, they go to tier 2, and this is where targeted interventions occur. This is where teachers can move the students within the same classroom into smaller groups. So all within the same classroom, there could be 4 different small groups, and they are working on different parts of that 4th grade math curriculum. The teacher would work with those small groups to establish or focus on specific skills that students struggle in that they didn't master in the tier 1 instructions. So for instance, one group might be working on adding numbers 1 through 10, while another group is working on adding numbers 10 through 20. So that first group is only able to add single digits, and then the second group already mastered the single digits, so they're going to move on to the double digit addition. So in this example, the teacher implements targeted skills development based on data indicating that students can only add single digits while others can move on to the double digits. And this necessitates the differentiated small group interventions. Then we move on to tier 3, and this is where the most intensive support occurs. And this is where the least amount of students require this tier 3 support. And this is geared towards the students that tier 1 didn't necessarily work or didn't work for them. Tier 2 didn't work for them, and they needed more supports. And that will require specialized instruction, increased frequency that the teacher meets with them. Maybe the teacher will meet with them, a longer amount of time each day. And they need to also provide comprehensive assessments to these students to determine the path on which they need to go and what supports they need. And when talking about tier 3, this is the part where it is seen as the bridge between the general education supports and then into special education services. While receiving Tier 3 support, students may be referred for a comprehensive special education evaluation if the data suggests a potential disability requiring specially designed instruction. However, it is very important to note that Tier 3 is not synonymous with special education. It's intensive support that can be provided within general education structures. So just because the student is in Tier 3 does not necessarily mean they will become a student with an IEP or come into special education. Tier 3 is that last stop before they come into special education. All right, so after MTSS, as I just explained, if the MTSS process did not work for a student, it is then going to go into the special education evaluation process. It's very important that the MTSS teams, when they were working with those students, to document what intervention strategies they used and how the student responded to those strategies. And it's important that that documentation is provided to within the referral process, so that once a student is tested for special education, they will have that data to show that the MTSS process did not work and that a student would require specially designed instruction and become eligible for special education. Once the referral once parents are communicated with, and the school team communicates that the MTSS process did not work for a student, the student is still struggling, a referral is then completed by the school team, or a referral can also be from a parent. A parent has the right to say, I want my student tested for special education before the MTSS process is even completed. But our school teams, when we communicate with families, we state to these families, well, we are trying these interventions. Let's give it a little bit more time, and to see if it works. And if that MTSS process does not work, then we will refer these students for an evaluation to be conducted. Parents are notified of their rights, and they are notified during that referral process, this step 2 referral process, that what is occurring. Step 3 is the consent process. This is where the school team will issue a permission to evaluate, also known as a PTE, that we issue that to the parent. And if the parent signs off and gives consent by signing, yes, I agree to the evaluation, then the school team will follow the 60-day timeline. So the 60-day timeline is, we have 60 days to complete a full special education evaluation. If the parent refuses, because the parent does have the right to refuse on that PTE and can say, I do not want my student tested for special education, then the school can decide whether they want to pursue it. And if they do want to pursue it, the school team the district would go through due process and to determine that this student really needs help. That has not occurred since I've been the director. Usually parents want the help for their students, for their child. So then they usually agree to accept or give consent for the evaluation to take place. So a little bit about the evaluation timeline. So the school, if the parent requests an evaluation in writing, the school has 10 days to issue the permission to evaluate. So day 1 through 10, this is where all this is the receipt of the referral, parent notification, and the permission is sent by that 10th day to the parent. Now, once we receive the signed permission from the parents, then our 60-day timeline, as I stated, starts. So day 11 through 60, this is where the evaluation is conducted by our school psychologists, our certified school psychologists. The district has 8 district eight school psychologists within our department, and we do have some agencies that we contract with because we have a high need for testing to occur, and for us to be able to maintain compliance and those 60-day timelines. School psychologists are very important to us so that we maintain that compliance, and they test our students and to determine if they need special education services. They assess all areas of suspected disability. That usually includes cognitive, so their IQ scores, academics to see how they're doing within, the curriculum, and then also behavioral rating scales that parents fill out, and then the teacher also fills out. And that is the ABCs, as we call it, of an evaluation: the academics, the behavior, and the cognitive. So once day 61 happens within the timeline, the evaluation report needs to be completed, and it needs to be given to the parent before that day 61. And between that day 61 and 75, the IEP team will come together, or the MDT team, multidisciplinary team, will come together to review the findings with the parent, and that's the school psychologist. That's usually the lead special education teacher within the buildings, and then also the parent, of course, and they determine if the student is eligible for special education services. If they are eligible for special education services, then an IEP team will meet before that day 90 to develop an IEP, which, it is a communication between, it's a document that, gives the student that specially designed instruction and the supports that student needs to be successful within their learning environment. And then before day 90, the parent would approve, and they would sign off on a notice of recommended educational placement, which shows where the student would be most successful within the least restrictive environment. Of course, as we said, we want them to be in the least restrictive environment because we want them to make progress, and we don't want to hinder them by putting them in a restrictive environment where they can't make progress. And once this parent signs off on that notice of recommended educational placement, or NOREP, then it is the IEP is then implemented, and gen ed teachers need to follow that IEP. It is by law. It protects that student and gives them what they need to be successful. So when considering eligibility categories, there are 13 eligibility categories, and they are autism, deaf and blindness, deafness, emotional disturbance, hearing impairment, intellectual disability, multiple disabilities, orthopedic impairment, other health impairment, including ADHD, ADD, specific learning disability, speech or language impairment, traumatic brain injury, and visual impairment. So once an evaluation is completed, the school psychologists, using all the data that they collected, all the data that was through the MTSS process, all the teacher input, the observations that they see of the student within their educational environment, the rating scales, they take all of that into consideration to determine which disability category they would fall under. And it is important to note here that even though a student has autism, that does not mean that they need autistic support or they need to be in a low incidence program. The IEP team determines, based off the needs, if that student could be in a, say, learning support classroom or a learning support environment, a learning support environment in the gen ed classroom. Even though that student has a disability, it does not mean that they need a restrictive environment. And that is very important to our department, to be able to provide the supports that they need within the general education curriculum and classroom. So that's where we are. Now, there are students that have disabilities that do require some more intensive low incidence classrooms, and we do have those within the district, as I stated before, such as autistic support classrooms, emotional support classrooms, and things of that nature. So part of the IEP, what's provided to students are the instructional supports. And that is where a student, when they are found eligible for special education, that might mean they need some instructional support. And specially designed instruction involves tailoring methods to address specific learning challenges by using modified instructional pacing and presentation methods. There's strategic scaffolding that gradually transitions to independent mastery and evidence-based interventions targeted to specific skill deficits. Adaptive curriculum materials make content accessible through simplified text, visual supports, auditory supports, and graphic organizers, and individualized academic interventions. These could be, as I stated before, reading interventions. We have reading intervention programs, research-based, and then also math research-based interventions that students are placed in those interventions to work on those gap skills that they need to learn in order to have access to the general education curriculum. And then we also have assistive technology, and this is for students that need technology to help them communicate. We have some students that are nonverbal, and they have iPads where they can click on a picture of something and it would speak for them. That is an example of assistive technology. And then when it comes to push-in and inclusion support, as I stated before, we really, really want our students to be in the general education classroom as much as they can. And instead of pulling students out of the general education classroom, research has proven that students that are in the general education curriculum with supports are more successful than students that are pulled out and excluded from their same age peers. So we have different related services, and these related services are provided within the IEP. If a student has a speech and language disability, they would receive speech and language therapy. If a student has issues with fine motor skills, they would receive occupational therapy. If they have, if they need help with mobility, and it's very important to distinguish between school-based therapy and medical therapy. Physical therapy would be provided to a student to help students access education. And for a student to receive physical therapy, it is required that a doctor provides us with a script so that we can provide those therapy. The physical therapist can provide those therapy sessions. to the student. We have counseling services. We have improved this greatly within the past 2 years, where we have a screener where students can take and to determine if they need counseling within their IEP. And that screener provides the IEP team with goals that student can work on. And this is school-based counseling. This is not out of school. This is to help them access the curriculum. Transportation, specialized transportation. If a student has issues navigating the community, the IEP team can determine if they receive or need to receive specialized transportation. And assistive technology services, that is what I spoke about before, where students might need an iPad or an eye gaze system to help them communicate to their peers. And then we have behavioral support as well, where teachers can, if there's behavior issues, then the IEP case manager or our BCBA would be able to conduct a functional behavioral assessment, and that will show what the student needs to be, what's the antecedent, what's happening before the behavior, and what are the consequences that student is, what consequence will make that behavior continue, or what consequence will help that behavior to show less, in other words. So, and once an FBA determines that the antecedents and the behavior and the consequences, then a positive behavior support plan can be conducted or created, and that is also within the student's IEP. So within the IEP, it also makes recommendations of the educational placement. And I know I keep coming back to this, but it's for the least restrictive environment, it is very important that the IEP determines what is the least restrictive environment. And a student with an IEP can be in general education, and that IEP provides them with the supports they need to be successful in the general education curriculum and classroom. We do have self-contained classrooms, as I stated before. These are the classrooms that have small numbers. In the numbers differ from elementary to secondary, and our department is working on making those numbers make those numbers lower to help out our teachers within those classrooms. But those self-contained classrooms are our autistic support classrooms, our emotional support classrooms, our MDS classrooms, and our life skills classrooms. And then special programs, this is on there because we have some students that are, they're students that receive instruction in the home, and these are students that have medical needs that do not allow those students to come to school. So we send a special education teacher, out to those students to receive instruction and supports. And then we have out-of-district placements. This is only for students that we are unable to program for within the district. And when we determine that we are unable to program for these students, then we do send those students to an out-of-district placement. The IEP development and implementation process begins with establishing annual goals that are carefully crafted based on the student's present levels of academic and functional performance. It's important that the IEP case managers looks at the evaluation that the school psychologist completed, and that's their initial evaluation. The team looks at the recommendations of the school psychologist in that evaluation report and develops these goals within the IEP. And These are annual goals. So every year at the same time, around the same time before that end date, goes past, then the IEP team needs to meet annually to update the IEP. Now, these goals are supported that are developed in the IEP. These goals are supported by measurable objectives that allow for consistent progress monitoring throughout the academic year. Now, progress monitoring does happen 4 times a year, and parents will receive progress monitoring reports that show how their student is progressing on those goals within the IEP. Accommodations and modifications can be put into the specially designed instruction within the specially designed instruction area of the IEP. And if a student is, for transition planning, if a student is going to be 14 years of age, then the IEP team needs to make transition goals so that they can work on those so that the student can be successful after graduation from high school. And yeah, annual reviews, like I said, every year you will review with your IEP case manager and you will get a new IEP. And it's important to say that sometimes the goals will be the same from year to year if that student does not make progress. So as I stated before, we really are working hard as a department to increase our parent and family engagement. And we are working on ways to have family training nights so that parents can get some information about what's offered in the community, what we have here to offer at the district, which is what I pretty much just went through. IEP team participation is the first thing that any family can do to get involved with their child's education. It's very important for a parent and family to attend those IEP team meetings because you are an integrant. You are an important part of that team, integral part. That's what I was going to say of that team. And regular communication with your school team is important. And the school teams, it's important for them to communicate to you as well on how your child is doing. And as I stated, parent workshops and training, access to resources and support networks, we are really trying to help bring that out to families. And please know procedural safeguards are provided to you during each process of the special education process. So before you sign off for the evaluation, you will receive a procedural safeguards. At every IEP meeting, you will receive a procedural safeguards, and that's a pamphlet that has your rights as parents of a student with an IEP. I want to thank everybody for joining today. There will be an opportunity for questions after this. I know it's a lot of information. I'm trying to break it down for everyone to understand is of great importance to my department. And please reach out if you have any questions. And you might not have the questions today. You might have them at a later time. And my contact information is within this slide. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Baker, for all of that information. The special education department is very big and sometimes can get confusing. So the fact that we're doing family trainings is so important, and also these sessions where parents can ask questions and get a more understanding of how it works are important as well. So you did mention we have some family trainings coming up. That is for middle and high school students for autistic with support. It's going to be April 2nd at the Reading High School from 5 to 6:30 p.m. You do have to register by March 26th because there will be free childcare, food, and there will be translation services. So we want to make sure that we're prepared for all the families that come on board. So please make sure that you are RSVPing. For our students in elementary school, that date is April 9th at 13th and Union Elementary from 5 to 6:30. And again, we do ask you to RSVP by the 2nd of April because that's going to help us, again, know how much childcare, dinner, and if we are going to need translation. So please make sure that you RSVP for those. They're going to be wonderful events. We also want to let you know that Pennsylvania has a statewide parent training and information center, and it gives families and self-advocates safe and confidential support to help them through any situation. They are an organization that is built of parents with children with disabilities and or special health care needs who bring knowledge and experience as a resource for education and special health care information and resources here in Pennsylvania. Those that group is really great. They do online training and they do physical in-person events. So you can check out their calendar on their website, and I put the link right on here on this slide. But they also have family resource specialists, which is a free resource for any family in the state, and they have trainings events. So make sure you check them out. We also want to let you know that there is our SPAC, our state parent advisory committee. It did put together a Title I Parent Resource Center. This is for all our families here in the district. You can go ahead to any of your children's schools and pick one of these forms up. All you have to do is fill out the top, check as many as 10 titles from the form, and these are going to be booklets with a lot of great tips and information for families, and then we just bring them back to the school. We will sign off on them, send them to the state, and they will send these resources directly to your home. So the address that you put on this form is very important. Make sure it's legible because they will mail the resources directly to you. This is, again, a free resource for our families, so make sure that you take advantage of that. Finally, we have our Healthy Kids Go. This is a group that does races every year. Their spring session is coming up in April, so next month. Make sure that you're checking out these races. It is not free. It is $54 for all 5 races or $23 for 1 race. But it's a really great program, and you want to get the kids out and about as soon as they get warm, get some of that energy out. I know I'm ready to be out in the sun. And they have races for children's age 2 and 3, children age 4 and 5, and then kindergarten and first grade, second and third, fourth and fifth, 6th through 8th, and then they have the Challenger division, which provide any support for students that need it. So make sure you check that out. The link is there in the slide, but you can also just Google it and it'll come up. Finally, in the district, we do have some exciting events coming up for family engagement. In May, we have our Quadrant Parent Network meetings. It is the final one for this year. So if you're interested in representing your school at this meeting, please make sure that you reach out to your parent, your POA or your principal to get on the list. We give out a lot of great information that's coming up. We also are planning a parent training for this summer, so make sure you check those out. We do have spring break also coming up next month, the 14th through the 21st. Students come back to school on Tuesday, the 22nd of April. So make sure you have some plans for that week. And then finally, our last day of school is June 9th as of right now. So you can start planning your summer vacation. And again, we want to thank you for joining the March session of the parent seminars. This was wonderful to share this information with you all. My name again is Arlene Pimentel. I'm the district-wide family engagement facilitator, and I will see you all again in April for our next parent seminar about testing. Thank you, Mr. Baker. Thank you, Ina Gonzalez. Bye-bye.
Thank you.